Hello everyone. So in the previous lecture we have seen that there are certain goals of green chemistry, why there is a need of green chemistry, and then how green chemistry could be implemented so that we can move away from the conventional methods. To move away from the conventional methods, Anastas had given 12 principles of green chemistry. Now these 12 principles, they are important to understand as to what all aspects can be concentrated through the principles of green chemistry. Now, green chemistry is an approach to chemistry that aims to maximize efficiency and minimize hazardous effects on human health and environment. We want to understand the how we can maximize the efficiency of a reaction and how we can minimize the hazardous effect of the starting material or the final products or the catalyst on the human health and environment. While we cannot play any important role in terms of understanding green chemistry, but we cannot term every reaction to be a green reaction. So, in turn, what we can do is we can do minor changes in the conventional method itself so that it can be turned into a green chemical reaction. Hence, while no reaction can be perfectly green, the overall negative impact of chemistry research and the chemical industry can be reduced by implementing the 12 principles of green chemistry wherever possible. We cannot turn every conventional reaction into a green chemical reaction, but at least wherever possible, if we can apply these 12 principles of green chemistry, we can turn few of the conventional reactions into green chemical reaction. So what are these 12 principles of green chemistry? First one is waste prevention. Prioritize the prevention of waste rather than cleaning up and treating the waste after it has been created. Plan ahead to minimize waste at every step. So instead of making use of a starting material which is not a green chemical process, we can choose a process in such a way that starting materials can be completely from a renewable source of energy, and further their conversion into the final product can be again a green chemical reaction. So if there are a number of steps involved in the reaction, at each and every step we can plan in such a way that there would be very less byproducts, or we can make use of a green catalytic system so that we can maximize the efficiency of the reaction and try to get maximum yield, and in turn there should be very less waste prevention. That is the first principle of green chemistry. Second, coming to atom economy, here reduce waste at the molecular level by maximizing the number of atoms from all the reagents that are incorporated into the final product. Use atom economy to evaluate reaction efficiency. We will be looking at atom economy in very much detail, but as of now, atom economy means that whatever number of atoms that we have chosen in the starting material, if we could completely convert them into the final products without any wastage or the byproducts, then it is called to be a highly efficient reaction. Now this type of atom efficiency can be seen 100% in addition reactions, where while across adding the reagents across the double bond, all the atoms are utilized and there is no byproduct in an addition reaction. So that is the concept of atom economy for highest reaction efficiency. Next is less hazardous chemical synthesis. Design chemical reactions and synthetic routes to be as safe as possible. Consider the hazards of all the substances handled during the reaction, including waste. Now, how we can try to understand this principle is, if we are trying to design any chemical reaction or a synthetic route towards a chemical reaction, it should be as safe as possible. It should be seen that the solvents that are used, they have to be safe, the catalysts that are used, they have to be safe, and there should be very minimum amount of waste that can be generated out. If the starting materials, the catalyst, the solvents are safe, then we can say that the particular reaction or a chemical reaction route or a synthetic route is completely safe and it is very less hazardous to the environment. Designing safer chemicals. Minimize toxicity directly by molecular design. Predict and evaluate aspects such as physical properties, toxicity, and environmental fate through the design process. Now, how we can minimize toxicity is by the molecular design. That is how each molecule can be utilized in the reaction and how we can evaluate these aspects in terms of the starting material, whether they are solid components, whether they are liquid components, or the final product, whether addition of two solids is going to give me a liquid or addition of two solids is going to give me a solid component itself. This has to be evaluated in various aspects of their physical properties, whether they have got a higher melting point or a lower melting point, or these properties will have a high vapor pressure or less vapor pressure. Dependent on that, the final products could be evaluated. Now, once the final products are synthesized, whether these final products are toxic or they are non-toxic, they have to be evaluated, and the environmental fate through the design process, whether this is completely biodegradable or it is non-biodegradable, that has to be decided through the environmental fate in the design process itself. That means while designing a process only, every molecule should be counted upon. Next, coming to an aspect called as safer solvents and auxiliaries. Choose the safest solvent available for any given step. Minimize the total amount of solvents and auxiliary substance used, as these make up a large percentage of the total waste created. Whatever is the safest solvent that is available, generally if we can make use of a solvent like water, that becomes a safest solvent, and if we can do a solventless reaction also, it is a very good approach towards a green chemistry, because solvents like benzene, toluene, DCM, they are all carcinogenic in nature and they cause health hazards to human beings. So instead of that, if we can make use of water as the solvent system, we can easily choose the safer option rather than a carcinogenic option. Now, if the solvents cannot be avoided at all, sometimes methanol cannot be avoided, ethanol cannot be avoided during recrystallization, what we can do, instead of making use of 100 ml of the solvent for recrystallization, if we can minimize this to even 50 ml of the solvent for recrystallization, or making it in a dilution method with water, that means we can minimize the total amount of solvents, and hence that also can be a part of green chemistry. Now there are various auxiliary substances also used. Sometimes there may be mixture of solvents that have to be used to complete a reaction. This can be avoided if a particular one solvent system can be attained, and then we can completely isolate the final product. Now, because of these auxiliary substances, further recyclization of the solvent becomes difficult and separation of the solvent becomes difficult, and that might have a large percentage of total waste which is created. So, this is how we can look up into safer solvents and auxiliaries. Next is design for energy efficiency. Choose the least energy intensive chemical route. Avoid heating and cooling as well as pressurized and vacuum condition. That is, ambient temperature and pressure are optimal. If a particular reaction need not be heated, that means we can stir the reaction at room temperature, say for 2-3 hours, and we get the same required component, so we can avoid this reaction heating. Or instead of that, if the reaction can be completed within 2-3 minutes in a microwave condition, we can aim for energy efficiency. Sometimes the sound reactions can be seen. Sound can be utilized as a reaction efficient mechanism where we can get a proper final product. So microwaves can be used, sonication system can be used. We can stir the reaction at room temperature. We can grind the reaction at room temperature. In this way, we can avoid making use of heating, pressurized and vacuum conditions to complete a reaction. Now, this is called as design for energy efficiency. Next concept is use of renewable feedstocks. Use chemicals which are made from renewable, that is plant based sources rather than other equivalent chemicals originating from petrochemical sources. Now, the very common example for this would be a biodiesel. Biodiesel is being brought from a plant system only. That is, a Jatropa type of plant is utilized so that we can get a diesel or petrol which is equivalent to that of petrochemical system only. How can we avoid the solvents from a petrochemical sources is we can try to extract the solvent from a plant based system, and these can be used in a green chemical procedure. Next is reduction of derivatives. Minimize the use of temporary derivatives such as protecting groups. Avoid derivatives to reduce reaction step, resources required and waste created. Very common example that we can recall in this particular system is protection of NH2 group and activation of carboxylic group in an amino acid that we have seen in our last semester. That means instead of utilizing such type of protecting groups and then activation of a particular functional group, if we could design the synthesis in such a way that there is no need of protection, that means we can reduce the number of steps, because once we try to protect a functional group, we also have to introduce a step called as deprotection. If that complete step is avoided, that means we do not have to have any temporary derivatives. If there are no temporary derivatives like protecting and deprotection of the system, easily that waste can be avoided. So this is how we can avoid protecting and deprotecting groups in a reaction. Next concept is called as catalysis. Use catalytic instead of stoichiometric reagents in reactions. Choose catalyst to help increase selectivity, minimize waste, and reduce reaction time and energy demands. We also know that catalysis is one of the systems through which the reaction can be potentially made faster, and then we can make use of catalyst for the 100% conversion of the starting material into the final product. So instead of a stoichiometric reagent, that is complete mole to mole reaction, if we can make use of a catalytic system where the whole of the starting material is utilized to complete it into the final product. Use of the catalyst can also be seen that in certain reaction we can increase the selectivity of how a particular reagent goes and attack onto the starting material. In this way also, catalytic system, they minimize waste and reduce reaction times. That means without the catalyst, if the reaction is taking say half an hour, by use of the catalyst we can reduce this time to around 15 minutes, and this also reduces the energy demands. This is because in the energy profile diagram we can see that the activation energy system reduces completely once we make use of catalysis or catalysts. Next is design for degradation. Design chemicals that degrade and can be discarded easily. Ensure that both chemicals and their degradation products are not toxic, bioaccumulative, or environmentally persistent. Now we can see this in terms of how a starting material that has been utilized completely changes into the final product. Now this is again a question when the chemicals, whether they are biodegraded or no, be it the waste product that we have got, the byproduct we have got, or the final product that we have got, whether they can be completely biodegraded, that has to be seen. Whether if they are not biodegradable, then it may so happen that they become toxic, they become bioaccumulative in the environment, and they are completely environmentally they are causing hazards to the environment. Now this is also seen through a half life system. If we consider uranium reactions, there is a concept called as half life. Now lesser the half life, that means completely biodegradable system we can observe, but since those wastes are completely radioactive, years together the half life goes on increasing. The half life is for long number of years, and there is no question of complete degradation. So such type of system have to be avoided so that they will be less bioaccumulative, and once they are completely biodegradable, it does not affect the human health. Next is real time pollution prevention. Monitor chemical reactions in a real time as they occur to prevent the formation and release of any potentially hazardous polluting substances. Now, if we cannot do complete green chemistry, at least we can monitor green chemical reaction, and once these green chemical reactions can be monitored by, if there are gases that are produced, and then we can adapt through a filter system, and this filter system will not allow the hazardous gases to move into the environment. There can be a filter system so that the hazardous chemicals do not move into the water bodies, and there can be lot of filters through which the hazardous chemicals do not go and mix up with the soils, and this way we can check for the real time pollution prevention. Now whatever these filters they collect, they can be recycled and they can be completely converted into a biodegradable component and then left into the environment. Lastly, safer chemistry for accident prevention. We can choose and develop chemical procedures that are safer and inherently minimize the risk of accidents. Know the possible risks and assess them beforehand. So, how we can have a chemical processes in an industry is, rather than a solvents like toluene system, solvents like DCM system, chloroform, carbon tetrachloride, which are highly volatile systems, if we can replace these solvents and there can be a safer chemical procedures given to the workers, that means there will be less possibilities of the accidents. So this can be calculated beforehand and they can be designed in the industry so that less pressure is required, less temperature is required, and then less solvents are required, and then a real time accident prevention can be done. So these are the 12 principles of green chemistry, in which waste prevention, atom economy, less hazardous chemical synthesis, designing safer chemicals, safer solvent and auxiliaries, design for energy efficiency, use of renewable feedstocks, reduce derivatives, catalysis, design for degradation, real-time pollution prevention, and safer chemistry for accident prevention can be given. So these 12 principles can be utilized when there is a complete green chemical procedure that can be followed, which can be moved away from a conventional chemical methods. Thank you.